Willow sat quietly on the hard wooden bench outside the courtroom, her hands clasped tightly together as if holding on to the last bit of courage she had left. Her heart pounded in her chest as the courtroom door opened and a bailiff called her name. "Willow Corinthos, you may come in." She rose slowly, her body trembling, but she knew this was the moment she couldn't run from anymore. Drew's fate, Scout's future, and her own conscience all rested on what she was about to say. Inside, everyone was already seated, the judge behind the bench, Carly on one side with Michael beside her, and Sam sitting rigidly in the gallery with tears already forming in her eyes. Drew stood at the defense table, his eyes filled with confusion and quiet pain. The tension in the room was suffocating as Willow made her way to the witness stand. Every eye followed her, every movement heavy with unspoken questions. She raised her right hand, swore to tell the truth, and then took a shaky breath before sitting down. The prosecutor, a stern woman with sharp eyes, leaned forward slightly and asked, "Ms. Corinthos, you stated you had something important to disclose regarding the incident involving Mr. Kane's shooting. Please proceed." Willow's throat tightened. She looked toward Michael, whose face was filled with concern, then to Drew, whose expression was calm but searching. "I've been keeping something inside," Willow began, her voice trembling slightly but gaining strength with each word. "Something that's been eating me alive for weeks. The truth about who shot Drew." A ripple of whispers spread through the courtroom, Sam clutched her chest, and the judge quickly banged his gavel to restore order. "Ms. Corinthos," the judge said firmly, "are you prepared to make a sworn statement on the record?" Willow nodded. "Yes, Your Honor. I can't keep quiet any longer. Drew deserves the truth." Carly's jaw clenched, sensing that whatever was about to come out of Willow's mouth would change everything. "Then tell us," the judge said calmly. Willow's eyes filled with tears as she turned toward Sam. "It wasn't who everyone thinks. It wasn't an intruder or a rival. It wasn't some mob retaliation. It was Scout." The courtroom fell silent. The words hit like an explosion. Sam's eyes went wide in disbelief, her breath catching as she whispered, "No. Willow, that's not true. That can't be true." But Willow's voice didn't waver now. "It is true. I saw her. I didn't mean to. I wasn't supposed to be there that night, but I was." She wiped her tears with the back of her hand. "I had gone to drop something off at the Courtroom boathouse. I heard shouting, Drew's voice, angry, frustrated, and then a gunshot. When I ran inside, I saw Scout standing there, frozen, holding the gun." Sam covered her mouth, sobbing silently, while Michael reached for Willow's hand, trying to steady her. "She didn't mean to do it," Willow continued, looking at the judge with desperation. "It was an accident. She was scared, confused. She was trying to protect her father, but things went horribly wrong." The prosecutor frowned. "Ms. Corinthos, are you saying you witnessed the shooting directly?" Willow nodded. "Yes. Drew was trying to take the gun from her. She thought someone was coming after him again. He told her everything was fine, but she panicked." Carly's voice suddenly rang out. "That's insane! Scout's a child, how could she even have access to a gun?" Willow turned toward Carly, her tone pleading. "It wasn't supposed to happen. Drew had the gun locked away, but Scout found it. She overheard conversations about danger, about protecting the family. She thought she was helping." Sam rose to her feet, shaking her head. "No, no, no. My daughter would never, she's just a little girl, she doesn't even understand what that kind of thing means." Her voice broke as Jason, seated behind her, tried to calm her. "Sam," he whispered, "let her finish. Please." Drew stood, his expression pale but steady. "Willow," he said softly, "are you sure? You're saying you saw Scout pull the trigger?" Willow's eyes filled again. "Yes, Drew. I saw it. She didn't mean to hurt you. She thought she was saving you." Michael swallowed hard, his voice shaking as he turned to Willow. "Why didn't you say something sooner?" She looked at him, guilt washing over her face. Because I didn't want to destroy that little girl's life. I thought maybe it was better to let everyone believe it was an accident caused by an unknown assailant. I thought maybe Drew wouldn't remember enough to question it. But now I can't live with myself. Not when I see Sam suffering, not when Scout is carrying that secret alone. The judge leaned back, looking both shocked and grave. This is a serious revelation, Ms. Corinthos. Are you aware of the legal implications? Willow nodded slowly. Yes, Your Honor. But the truth needs to come out. Scout doesn't deserve to carry this burden. Sam broke down completely, crying into Jason's shoulder as Drew stood frozen, his mind spinning with disbelief. When the judge called for a short recess, the courtroom erupted into chaos. Carly rushed over to Willow. How could you say that? Do you realize what you've done? You just destroyed a family. Willow's eyes glistened. No, Carly. The truth was destroying us already. This just set it free. Michael stepped between them, his expression torn. Mom, stop. She did the right thing. You know what secrets do, they rot everything from the inside. Carly threw up her hands, exasperated. Right thing? You think telling the world a little girl shot her own father is the right thing? Drew finally found his voice. Enough, he said firmly. No one's thinking about Scout right now. We need to protect her. Sam turned toward him, her face streaked with tears. Protect her? From what? From the truth? From herself? She's terrified, Drew. I thought she was just having nightmares, but now, she broke down again, unable to continue. Jason put a hand on Drew's shoulder. She's just a kid, man. You know she didn't mean it. Drew nodded slowly. I know. I don't blame her. But we have to deal with this the right way. Later, when court resumed, Willow remained on the stand as the prosecutor began cross-examining her. Ms. Corinthos, you claim you witnessed Scout Kane shooting her father. Did you report this to the authorities at the time? Willow lowered her eyes. No, why not? Because I was afraid. I didn't want to ruin her life. She was already traumatized, and Drew was in the hospital fighting for his life. I thought silence was mercy. Or guilt, the prosecutor countered coldly. You do understand that withholding this kind of information constitutes obstruction of justice? Willow nodded. I understand. And I'll accept whatever comes of it. Drew rose from his seat. She doesn't deserve punishment, he said quietly. I don't want charges against her, or against Willow. The judge looked at him with empathy. Mr. Kane, you were the victim in this case. Your opinion carries weight, but the law must be followed. Drew nodded. I understand, Your Honor. But this was an accident. A tragedy, yes, but not a crime. Sam stood again, this time calmer, her voice trembling but determined. If anyone should take responsibility, it's me. I should have noticed what was happening with Scout. I should have protected her from the fear that made her do this. The judge's expression softened. Ms. McCall, this isn't about blame, it's about understanding and truth. As the court adjourned for the day, Drew approached Willow. You did what you thought was right, he said gently. I can't be angry at you for that. Willow shook her head, her voice barely a whisper. I just wish it didn't hurt so many people. Drew sighed. The truth always hurts. But lies, they destroy. Sam came over, her eyes red from crying. I need to take Scout away for a while. She's been having nightmares for weeks. Now I understand why. Drew nodded slowly. She needs help. Not punishment. Outside the courthouse, the press swarmed, hungry for details. Michael shielded Willow as they hurried toward the car, flashing cameras and shouted questions trailing behind. Willow, did you lie under oath before? Is Scout really the shooter? Is this some kind of cover-up? Willow kept her head down, tears spilling freely. No comment, Michael said firmly, guiding her into the car. Later that evening, in the quiet of the Corinthos kitchen, Willow sat at the table, her hands trembling as she held a cup of tea. Michael stood across from her, concern written all over his face. "You did the hardest thing imaginable today," he said softly. Willow looked up at him. "I don't feel brave. I feel like I just shattered lives." "You told the truth," he replied gently. "That's all anyone can ask." Meanwhile, across town, Sam sat beside Scout's bed, watching her sleep. The little girl stirred, murmuring Drew's name in her sleep. Sam brushed her hair back gently, whispering, "It's okay, baby. Mommy's here." Jason stood in the doorway, his expression somber. "She's gonna need therapy, Sam. This isn't something she can just forget." Sam nodded. "I know. I just don't know how to tell her she's safe when I can't even believe it myself." Drew, alone in his apartment, stared at a framed photo of himself and Scout. His chest tightened as the memory of that night replayed in his mind, the panic, the confusion, the flash of light. For the first time, he allowed himself to accept it. His little girl hadn't meant to hurt him. She was just trying to protect the man she loved most. The next morning, Drew went to Sam's. Scout ran into his arms, crying. "Daddy, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. I thought someone was going to hurt you." Drew hugged her tightly, tears filling his eyes. "Shoo, sweetheart, it's okay. It was an accident. Daddy's fine now." Sam watched them, her heart breaking but also mending in ways she couldn't explain. Later, when Willow visited, Sam approached her cautiously. "You told the truth," she said quietly. "I hated you for it at first. But now, I get it. You saved us all from living a lie." Willow nodded, her voice choked. "I just wanted Scout to be free." Sam smiled faintly through tears. "She will be. With time." In the end, the court ruled in an accidental discharge with no criminal intent. Scout would receive counseling, Drew would continue recovery, and the families, broken, shaken, but honest, would try to move forward. As Willow stood outside the courthouse one last time, she looked up at the sky and whispered, "It's over." Michael took her hand. "No," he said softly, "it's just beginning. The healing starts now." And somewhere deep inside, despite the chaos and pain, Willow felt a small flicker of peace. The truth had set them all free. In the packed courtroom of Port Charles Superior Court, the air hung heavy with anticipation, the kind that made every breath feel labored and every whisper echo like a shout. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead, casting harsh shadows on the wooden benches filled with spectators, reporters scribbling furiously, locals craning their necks for a better view, and a few familiar faces from General Hospital itself, drawn by the drama that had spilled from the hospital corridors into this sterile hall of justice. At the center of it all sat Judge Evelyn Ramirez, her dark robes a stark contrast to the silver hair pulled tightly into a bun, her expression unreadable behind wire-rimmed glasses. She had presided over her share of scandals in this town, but nothing quite like the tangled web of lies, love, and betrayal that had unfolded in the case of Drew Kane's shooting. Willow Tate stood at the witness stand, her hands gripping the wooden rail as if it were the only thing anchoring her to reality. She was dressed in a simple navy blouse and black skirt, her hair tied back in a ponytail that did little to hide the exhaustion etched into her features. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, remnants of sleepless nights spent replaying the events in her mind, weighing the cost of silence against the devastation of truth. Beside her, in the defendant's chair, sat Michael Corinthos, his jaw clenched, his eyes fixed on Willow with a mixture of love and dread. He knew what was coming. They had discussed it in hushed tones the night before, in the dim light of their living room, with the kids asleep upstairs. But knowing and hearing it aloud in front of the world were two different beasts. The prosecutor, a sharp-suited woman named Carla Reyes with a reputation for dismantling alibis like they were made of paper, paced slowly in front of the stand. "Ms. Tate," she began, her voice smooth but edged with steel, "you've testified that on the night of October 15th, you were at home with your children, and that your husband, Michael Corinthos, was with you the entire evening. Is that correct?" Willow swallowed hard, her throat dry despite the glass of water trembling in her hand. She glanced toward the gallery, where Nina Reeves sat rigidly, her manicured nails digging into her palms, and Carly Spencer, Drew's ex and Michael's mother, leaned forward with a glare that could melt steel. Further back, Elizabeth Weber fidgeted with her nurse's ID badge, and Sonny Corinthos watched impassively, his presence a silent storm. This wasn't just a trial, it was a family implosion, broadcast for all of Port Charles to dissect. "Yes," Willow said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. The judge leaned forward slightly. "Speak up, Ms. Tate." "For the record." "Yes," Willow repeated, louder this time, though it cracked on the edges. "That's what I said." Reyes nodded, a predator sensing blood. "And yet, we've heard from multiple witnesses that Michael Corinthos had a heated argument with Drew Kane earlier that day at the Courtroom mansion. Words were exchanged about business dealings, about family loyalties. Drew accused Michael of undermining him at ELQ. Isn't it possible, probable even, that Michael left your home that night, confronted Drew again, and in a moment of rage?" "Objection." Michael's defense attorney, Diane Miller, shot to her feet, her red hair a fiery contrast to her tailored suit. "Speculation, Your Honor. Ms. Reyes is testifying now." Sustained, Judge Ramirez said firmly. "Ms. Reyes, stick to the facts." Reyes smiled thinly. "Of course." "Ms. Tate, did Michael ever leave the house that night? After the children were asleep, perhaps?" Willow's heart pounded in her chest, a frantic drumbeat echoing the chaos in her mind. She had lied to protect him, to protect their family, to shield Wiley and Amelia from the fallout of a father's arrest. But the evidence was mounting: ballistics reports, anonymous tips, a grainy security camera from the docks showing a figure matching Michael's build. And then there was Scout. Sweet, innocent Scout Kane, Drew's daughter with Sam McCall, who had been staying with Dante Falconeri after her mother's tragic death. Scout, who had seen too much in her young life already. Willow started, then stopped. The courtroom seemed to shrink around her, the walls closing in. She thought of the night it happened, the phone call from the hospital pulling her into the frenzy of saving Drew's life. She had been there when he coded, when the monitors flatlined, when the paddles brought him back. And all the while, the secret gnawed at her. Reyes pressed on. "Ms. Tate, perjury is a serious offense. If there's something you're not telling us." Diane interjected again, but Willow raised a hand subtly, silencing the room with the unexpected gesture. "No," she said, her voice gaining strength. "I need to say this. I can't. I won't lie anymore." A murmur rippled through the crowd. Michael bolted upright. "Willow, don't." But she turned to him, tears welling in her eyes. "I'm sorry, Michael. I have to." Judge Ramirez banged her gavel once. "Order." "Ms. Tate, proceed carefully." Willow took a deep breath, the kind that shook her entire frame. "The night Drew was shot, Michael was home with me. He never left. He couldn't have shot Drew because someone else did." Reyes's eyebrows shot up. "And who might that be?" Willow's gaze drifted to the back of the room, where a small figure sat flanked by Dante and a social worker. Scout Kane, no more than 10 years old, her dark hair in braids, her eyes wide and haunted. She wore a pink sweater that seemed too big for her fragile frame, clutching a stuffed dolphin, Sam's old favorite, a relic from better days. "It was Scout," Willow whispered, but the microphone carried it like a thunderclap. "Scout is the one who shot Drew." Gasps erupted. Reporters' pens scratched wildly. Carly stood up, mouth agape, before a bailiff motioned her down. Sonny's eyes narrowed, calculating. Nina covered her mouth, shock mingling with something darker, relief, perhaps, that her daughter wasn't implicated further. Judge Ramirez's gavel cracked repeatedly. "Silence! Ms. Tate, these are grave allegations. Explain yourself immediately." Willow nodded, wiping tears from her cheeks. "It started weeks before the shooting. Scout had been acting out ever since Sam's death. She blamed Drew for not being there more, for the dangers of his job with the WSB remnants. She overheard arguments, Drew and Jason, Drew and Carly. She found a gun in Drew's bag one day when he was packing for a trip. It was unloaded, but she hid it. She didn't know what she was doing. She was angry, scared. The prosecutor recovered quickly. "And how do you know this, Ms. Tate? Were you confessing to covering for a child?" "No," Willow said firmly. "Scout came to me. The day after the shooting, she showed up at the gatehouse, crying. She said she followed Drew to the docks that night. She wanted to confront him, to make him promise to stay safe like he promised Sam. But when she got there, she saw him arguing with someone, she couldn't see who in the dark. She panicked, thought Drew was in danger. The gun, she had it in her backpack. She pulled it out to scare the other person away, but it went off. She didn't mean to hit Drew. She ran, dropped the gun in the water, and came to me because I'm her aunt, in a way. Through Michael. She trusts me." Michael buried his face in his hands. Diane whispered urgently in his ear, but he shook her off. Reyes turned to the judge. "Your Honor, this is hearsay at best, a fabrication to exonerate the defendant." But Willow wasn't done. "It's not. Scout told Dante too, eventually. He kept it quiet to protect her, but the ballistics matched the gun Scout described, a .38 special registered to Drew himself. And there's more. Scout had gunshot residue on her sweater that night. The lab tests came back inconclusive because it was washed, but traces were there. I saw the report when I was treating Drew." Elizabeth Weber stood up in the gallery. "She's telling the truth. I was on shift when Scout came in for a checkup the next day. She was shaking, asked me not to tell anyone about the bang she heard. I thought it was trauma from Sam's death." Chaos ensued. The judge called for a recess, but the damage was done. As bailiffs cleared the room, Scout was escorted forward, her small voice cutting through the din as Dante knelt beside her. "I'm sorry, Daddy Drew," she sobbed into his shoulder when he was brought in from the hospital wing for a brief appearance, pale, bandaged, but alive. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I just wanted you to come home safe." Drew, wheeled in under guard.